Hello and welcome to Opinions Plus. I really have a difficult time to strive to identify some of these concepts I'd like to talk about. In this case, I would like to talk about the concept of harm, what it is, how do we identify it? There's some of the degrees of harm, some of the issues that go into us harming others, others harming us, societal harm. Um, there's just a myriad of ways to harm. It's not that simple, but I will try to keep it simple. Years ago, and I've used this example many times, um, my aunts had a disagreement about something. And for 25 years, they didn't talk to one another. They had cordialities, but they didn't talk anymore. Well, that lasted, but then it ended. Why it ended, how it ended, what even started it was unknown. As a child, I had no idea. They were not the most communicative people to me. Um, so I really didn't see that they were not communicative to each other. But they were, engaged in life and rearing families and raising families and engaged in everyday situations. Go over for Thanksgiving dinners, and there was a cordiality of sorts. But as a older or mature person, I found out that you know there was a lot going on behind the scenes, which caused what? It caused harm. It wasn't major harm. There was no loss of income or uh, physical damage done to anybody, but there was harm done to their relationship and to their family's relationship. Those who knew what was going on and participated or were impacted by it or let it roll off their backs or thought, well, it's just the way things go, but there was a degree of harm. And there was, as time went on, of course, it ended and there was cordiality and, relationship was back. Maybe not to the degree that it was certainly back. So the level of harm was reduced or ended. Well, I had not too many years ago, there was a discussion in church about people who uh, do these what at the time was stated as stupid things, angry over stupid things, inconsequential things that disrupt families and cause harm. Well, when I heard that discussion, it came to mind my two aunts. And when I thought about it, I said, well, why would I consider it stupid? Why would I consider it inconsequential? Because it meant something to them, didn't it? It meant something deeply because it lasted so long. Not everything is just cut and dry and, you know, um, cavalierly pushed aside and say, "Oh well, just forget about it. It's a silly thing, Um, don't worry about it." Well, every individual is different, and we have to look at the importance of things. And if you had the ability to be the arbiter between these two women, you might be able to help. You might be able to overcome those issues that created this rift. If they were willing to talk to you, if they were willing to communicate exactly what their issues were. As an arbiter, you have to understand, and I had that role for some years, not in domestic, but in employment, the business relationship. But people don't tell you the truth. People don't say what is actually going on, the actual reasons for things. You have to drill down to try to find it. As every salesperson knows, there's always a smokescreen as to why people don't buy something. It's not the reasons given usually. There's some other issue. It's not just the amount of money that it costs. There's doubts, there's fears, there's internal relationships, agreement of people, and just spending that kind of money. But there's all types of things that go on, and that's where you have to drill down, whether you're a salesman or an arbiter. But you can only drill so far before you alienate the people you're talking to. So you can't necessarily get rid of the true things or the true elements that caused the harm or denied the sale. But it's the same premise. There is harm. There is hurt. There's a negative feeling that's happened. On that level, and it's an important thing to deal with as individuals. There are many that say, turn the other cheek, forgive and forget. Those are all ways to deal with it, if you can. I am not cut from the directly forgiving cloth, but you try. And there are many things I have forgiven, but there are things that I haven't, because the scars are deep. The wounds are deep. You don't know how deep. Nobody does. Harm is not a simple thing. And in today's world, we have to understand that. It cannot be glibly pushed aside or put into some category. Regardless if you say a word that's not appropriate or whatever. In many cases, you have to go back, because we do make mistakes and we say things that are harmful or hurtful. But you have to go back to what kind of person you are. If it's a long-term relationship, it's not just the moment that caused the harm. It's just not the word or the statement or the fact that you did something. You have to, inappropriate or that hurt the other person. But look at your life. They need to recognize that fact of the person who was harmed to mitigate the level of harm. The action does, of course, cause some problem, but it doesn't color your character. It doesn't color you as just this negative person. Your life shows what kind of person you are, not one action, because everybody does actions that hurt. And some of these actions are very small and simple actions. You didn't even think about them, but they hurt the other person, or they hurt the society, or they hurt. I know I see people do it with their pets even. They talk to their pets and they say, they've hurt them in some way, or not provided for them in some way, or have not taken care of them in some way. Now, there's so much into this concept of doing harm on a low level or a minimalized level, not a low level, because harm is harm, pain is pain. It's the degree in which it's given and the intent behind it. There are people today that just give harm. They just do harm. They're not there. They're callous to the harm that they've created. Doesn't really matter. They do good and do bad, do whatever. Yeah, these things are inconsequential. It's the act of just their living that's the importance. And whoever gets in the way gets in the way, and that's just the way it is. But it goes back to our beliefs and how we deal with harm. Social harm, individual harm. We cannot just accept harm on any level. You can't just say, oh, well, it's just another thing. It hurts. It causes pain. And we have to recognize that. What do we do about it? That's an individual choice. But we have to start recognizing the fact that we can do things about it. We can have certain aspects of actions that help to show that we have some power, some recourse in life, not just to be able to accept all these things. And then some harm, of course, you're going to have to accept. Or a tornado comes through your community, takes your house away, you're going to have to accept that. You can't rally, throw your hand up in the air and, charge the heavens and say, I hate it. It's weather. I've been diagnosed with a disease. Well, I can't hate the disease. It's causing me harm, but I can't hate it. It's a disease. I talked to the doctors and said, well, these are alien forces in your body that are telling your body to do something that's not to its best interest. And I said, that's an alien intelligence. Now, they winked and nodded at me, but, to a degree, I think that has some relevance. Life is filled with mystery. We are here to participate in that mystery. And harm, dealing with it, having righteous indignation over the harm that is done to us, whether you can actually get out there and sue the person or punch the person or yell at the person or whatever you decide to do. My position is that you have to understand that and recognize the fact that there was harm done. And now what do I do about it? I have to recognize the fact that, yes, I can do something about it. I can sue them. I can yell back at them. I can challenge them or whatever. Like my aunts had an opportunity to talk to one another. They chose not to. But it's not that simple. But it is because if you think about it, if you think about the degree of harm, you can make a decision as to what you can do about it. In war, there's not much you can do about it. But hate comes from war. Hate comes from the injustice of it all. And it's understandable. Anger, frustration, pain, sorrow, all these things. That's a high level of harm. In the everyday harm, the everyday harms that we have to deal with, it's a little different. We have opportunities, depending on how our minds work, depending on your level of faith, depending on your level of understanding about your abilities to deal with life. But you always have the options to face that reality, whatever it is. And if you can change it, make the effort to change it. And one of the best ways to do that is to communicate with others, if you can. I know it's hard. It's very hard sometimes. But communication is really your major weapon. Whether it's voice, whether it's a letter, whether it's a clip like this, whatever it is, a touch on the shoulder, you know, some way you can express an understanding or a communication, depending on the level and the degree of the harm that was given. So I ask you to think about it. There's no clear answers. Most of the clips that I have no clear answer. I do not presume that there's a clear answer, but I do know that if we just go to the good, look at the good, not just say everything is good, but go to where it is a better place for ourselves. Trust your own heart. Trust your own motivations, that you're not a bad person. You're not leading yourself down the wicked ways, but you are a good person leading yourself to a better place. Trust that intuition. And if you pray, trust your prayer. Trust where it leads you, if it's going to the good. There are other influences out there. So my hope is that if you like what you hear, subscribe and send it on the link. If it can help somebody else you think, please do. Hit the like button for whatever it does, and comment. Feel free to comment. It's always a good thing. Thanks for listening and viewing. Have a good day. Bye for now.